my eyes are watering. Lord Jesus. Okay. Good food costs. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So today we're making greens. I'm gonna say why. Because everybody doesn't know how to fix them, and one day I'm not going to fix them. I'm going to hand this over to my child or to somebody else's child, or nieces or something, and say, I'm 85 years old and I taught y'all how to make them 45 years ago, and you do it. How about that? All right. I think I'm done crying over the onions now. Just a few extras. I tend to make stuff ahead of time. Like yesterday we had tacos. So while we were having tacos, I chopped up some onion. And I saved that onion that was left over for today, so that I wouldn't have to stand here and cry all morning with onions. The other thing that I usually do for greens is roast some garlic. So this is just 2 cloves of roasted garlic, but the rest of it is in here. So what I would do, and I think a lot of people know how to do this, but maybe not everybody. So what I normally would do, like if it were Thanksgiving, I'd have the whole thing, because I make a lot of greens at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But it just got a couple of cloves here, and I took the whole bulb, I sliced off the edge. You can kind of see where I sliced the top of this off, and then I set it down in this foil paper. All of these didn't get open, but I set it in the foil paper. I sprinkled a little oil in there, a little kosher salt, a little pepper, and then I packaged it all up kind of like this. And I put it in my oven. So I put it in the oven on 375. It could be on 400, but you just gotta watch it. But I put it on 375 for about 30 to 45 minutes. Just long enough for the garlic itself to get soft. I've let it go longer than that. Because when you're doing stuff, you kind of get distracted. If you're ADHD like a lot of people in this house, you get distracted and you're doing like 12 things at one time. So I do the same and I get distracted. And it sometimes goes longer, but one time it was so soft that I was cooking greens and I just literally just pushed them all out like that. Which, I mean, you should be able to do. It's probably the easiest way to get them out. But I think the reason why they come out so tender is because I put a lot of garlic in them. Now today, I'm not making a huge batch of greens, but, you know, I'm taking some shortcuts. I didn't buy a couple of bunches of greens and cut these up. I did not. It's Sunday and I don't want to do any more work than anybody else would want to do. So I bought a bag of greens from the grocery store. They were pre-cut and they were pre-washed, but I still washed them. Trust issues? Perhaps, but I washed them. And I typically will go through them as well to look for any of these big, I call them bones. And I would take the really big pieces out because nobody wants to eat the big pieces anyway. So, but for today, I mean, it's a regular Sunday. I just want to try to get some greens on the stove to go along with all of the pork that Mr. Jensen made yesterday. I'm going to have to get you guys a video for that. But this all goes along with our, like 100 things you can make with sofrito. So I'm Krista, and here's my video. Okay, so now this is that garlic that we roasted in, I roasted in the toaster oven. And like I said, I put it on about 375. I'm just doing kind of a little rough chop, it's not that serious. When it's really soft, and this is probably 6 or 7 cloves. I know that sounds like a lot. Yeah, it kind of is a lot, but it's okay. It'll be fine. So just a rough chop. You don't want anybody to get a great big piece of garlic in their mouth. They'll never let you forget it. Don't ask me how I know. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there. This feels like enough. All right, so minus one big one. There we go. All right, so I'm going to now head over to the stove and we're gonna put our stuff inside. Let me tell you what we have though. So this right here, this is our sofrito, fantastic product. You know, if you're not really big on how to flavor your foods or don't really know what to do, this stuff does it. My husband makes his own. Lots of people make their own, but it's a combination of different peppers, onions, lots of stuff. I can't tell you his secret and his, but everything we have made with this, people typically want to take it home with them, or they always get seconds or thirds or fourths. Oh my gosh. And so we use it all the time. It's a good shortcut. So even if I'm making spaghetti or I'm making chili or I'm making whatever, I can throw that in there and I can avoid cutting all these onions and looking for green peppers and all the rest of that. So there you go. So there's your sofrito. Here's our onion. This is about, I would say, a medium to large onion. This right here, this is my seasoning blend. Everybody can do this seasoning blend. It's essentially kosher salt, black pepper, garlic powder, and garlic salt. I mean, not salt, garlic powder and onion powder. So sorry. So the only salt in there is kosher salt. And that doesn't mean we won't need more salt later, but we'll just see. So everything has to be seasoned to taste. And then finally over here, this is the drippings from bacon that we had for breakfast this morning. And I typically do that on days that we're going to make greens because, well, it just makes sense. You know, otherwise I'll be doing like all the old folks did and keep all that grease in the can by the stove. But I try not to do that. I try to just make something that day and then hold on to the drippings. Final ingredient is this green jalapeno pepper. You'll notice I haven't chopped it. And that's because I don't chop it. What I do is I put it in whole later. And then I take it out later if I want them kind of hot or just a little bit hot. Okay? All right, so ready? I think we're ready. All right, so let's go over to the stove. Take some things over. And then we're gonna get this stuff going. The good thing about greens is once you get them going, there's not a whole lot left to do, but wait. So in this pot, I actually put about a tablespoon of vegetable oil in there. I may not need it, but I put a little bit in there because it just seems to make it better when I'm sauteing onions and stuff. So as it heats up, I'm going to go ahead and put my onions in. I'm a hands kind of girl. I don't know if y'all like that or not, but my hands have been washed several times today, in the last several minutes actually. There's my sofrito, it's inside. And then here's my bacon grease. Bacon grease, man, that makes it good. My sister tells this story. You know, at Christmas and Thanksgiving, we're always joking and laughing about, you know, all of the food that we end up cooking. You know, and how sometimes we don't feel like doing all this food, but if we don't do it, then somebody says, well, what happened to, you didn't make this, or you didn't make that. And we end up making it anyway. But she was chatting with one of her coworkers about all the cooking that they were doing, and this lady said, don't matter what you make, just put bacon grease in it. And they're going to say it's good. They're not going to know any different. And I, you know, I'm just saying, some people like pork and some people don't. But I put plenty of bacon grease in my greens or green beans and other vegetables, and it comes out great. Now, some people don't eat pork, and for those folks, that's fine. Season with turkey or season with vegetable broth. You know, sometimes if I'm making stuff and I'm doing vegetarian style, then I will not put any of that in there. I will only do vegetable oil. I'll do some, definitely sofrito is a main ingredient. And then I will also add some different spices, a little bit more of those. So it's possible, and your vegetable broth. All right, so my onions are getting softer in there. They're working around. This stove works pretty hot. It's fast. Okay. Looking good, looking good. Oh yeah. Alright, so I'm going to turn the heat back just a little bit because I know my stove, it done burnt the stuff up. Alright, now you notice I haven't put the garlic in there yet. I'll put that in a second. I tend to try to get the onions kind of clear or translucent before I add the garlic. Garlic kind of takes over. It's okay. Alright. And they're getting pretty good right here. Alright. So I think I'll go ahead and add my garlic. It's really weird that I actually cook. I didn't plan on cooking like I do, but you know, you get older and you have children and you have to make stuff. And I originally lived in Michigan, and when I moved to Georgia all those many years ago, I didn't know how to make collard greens. I didn't even know that I really liked collard greens. But when you're in the South, people make collard greens and they're delicious. So I really wanted to learn. And when my oldest two kids were in preschool, there was a lady who cooked for the kids. And her name was Miss Beulah. And Miss Beulah was amazing in the kitchen. Everybody loved her cooking. And one day I asked her, I said, well, how do you make greens, you know? I said, everybody, I really like your greens and I would love to be able to cook them. And so this is most of her recipe. I've added my own little touches here and there, but the basic stuff came from her. And some people will add vinegar and sugar and I just ain't that kind of girl, I'm sorry. So, anywho, all right, so now that that's sauteed a good while, I'm going to go ahead and add some water. This is 8 cups of water. And surprisingly, we're really almost done here. So this is 8 cups of water. Does that mean that's all the water I'm going to need? Probably not. But we'll see. And then what I have in this little magic bag here. So, again, half of what makes greens good is your seasoning and how you treat the greens before you put them in the pot. So, like I said yesterday, Mr. Jensen made pork, pulled pork. And I always ask him for the bone, or, you know, in this case, I got a big piece of the meat. And I'm going to stick that in the water here and let that work for me today. You know, we all been in quarantine, God help us. And I literally could not find any smoked meat in the refrigerator section at the grocery store. Ridiculous. So we're trying to get creative. He made pork yesterday. It's going to make these greens phenomenal. God help us all. I don't think I'm even need to put them in the refrigerator this evening because they may be gone. All right. So now that we have this up here, I'm going to put the lid on this. And I'm going to let this simmer a little while. I like to let it, you know, get a little boil going. It may take, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes or so. I could cook it longer. But once I get a good little broth going on there, then we're going to add the collard greens. We're going to put the lid back on this and let it simmer. So, be back in a little while. Okay, so everything is boiling in this pot right here. And before we went out to break a second ago, I had not added any of the salt and pepper and all of that. I waited because I knew I was putting in his pork and stuff from yesterday. And it was salted. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't overdo it. And I hadn't. So I went on and added that I showed you earlier. Remember, it was garlic powder, onion powder, cracked black pepper, and kosher salt. And it was roughly about a tablespoon of salt. And then the onion and garlic powder, I usually do about 2 tablespoons. Remember, this is all yours. This is just what I do. If you want to add a little bit less because you don't like garlic, help yourself. Add a little bit more, go ahead. But experiment with it and make it your own. So I'm doing what I normally do when I'm making greens. And it's a lot of waiting. So, so I had this boiling. I'm drinking my lemonade. And we're going to go ahead now and add the greens. probably Clarissa's favorite part. All right, here we go. So you can take a peek in there and look at that. It looks like it smells delicious because it smells delicious. Yes. All right. I washed my hands yet again. And we're gonna add these greens. Normally I would have just dumped them in there, but I'm not using the same pot that I usually use. I have a bigger pot. Anyway, long story short, I'm using this one today. At Thanksgiving, ooh honey, I feel like we'll be adding greens for hours because we'll make really huge bunches of them. Just to make sure we have enough, because you know our Thanksgiving dinner is probably 25 people-ish, and those same 25 people will be staying with us for several days, and so we always try to make sure that there's enough for leftovers to be shared between two houses, because some people will stay in one house and some people may stay with me, and so we just try to make sure that we got enough. There we go. All right, so this is not a huge pot in my personal opinion of greens. It's a pretty average sized pot. And there were still some stems that I missed in there, so I didn't put those in, I tossed them. And just kind of get everybody tucked in. Get in there, get in there, let me in. Okay, sure. So everybody is in, and then I'm just gonna put the lid on this and let it simmer. Not before I add my pepper though. Here's that pepper we talked about. This one's kind of big, so I'm certain that I'm gonna take this one out maybe about halfway through the cooking process. If it were Thanksgiving or Christmas or what have you, I would leave it because, well, I'd have more greens, number one. But also because, you know, when you have leftovers, if I leave the pepper in there, the next day they're hotter. Every day they're in the refrigerator. They get hotter and hotter, and so if I have a really big pepper like that one, comparative to the amount of greens I'm cooking, I will pull that out once they're done, and I won't put it back in there. Sometimes, like I say, it just kind of depends on how many you're making. You may want to leave it. You may like your food really hot. My husband loves his food really hot. In fact, regardless of what I do, he's gonna still add he's still gonna add hot pepper to his food. Yeah, so, but anyway, so that's what we're doing. So now I have my heat on medium. I'm gonna keep an eye on this, and I'm gonna let it cook, and I'm gonna check on it maybe every 30 minutes or so, or however I feel like getting up to come over here. And when I see the water has gone down too low, I'm gonna add a little bit more water. They look so pretty in there, don't they? I can't wait till later. Ooh-wee. Okay. All right, so all my nieces and sons and daughter and all these guys, so one day when I don't feel like making this anymore, you can come in here and do it for me. Mother's Day is in about a week, by the way. Just thought I'd point that out. All right, back later when they're done. Okay, so we have done all the work now. These greens have been cooking about 2 hours, something like that. And everybody's different, so if you want yours to be a little more tender, let them cook a little longer. It's up to you. As well as the seasoning. So if you feel like you need a little more salt, add a little more salt. If you don't want any salt, don't put any salt. I shook a little red pepper flakes in here. You know, it just depends on your taste. So don't feel like obligated to do exactly what I did, but you have the basics you need in order to get through it. So here's what they look like. And the only thing left for me to do at this point is to take this pepper out. You see it sitting there, right? So we'll just take it out. If I wanted them hotter, I would just leave it in there. And I have dipped up a bowl to try. So let's go do that. Come on. Here's our greens, our finished product right here. So I just dipped these up a second ago. I have a several people who want to taste test. I'm going to taste test them first and then let them taste test them. Oh yeah, they're tender and really good. And these will be even better tomorrow. Come here, little taste tester. What do you think? A triumph. Okay, so now you know how to make greens. Bye, style.